thought I'd do a quick video of this Myford Connoisseur lathe, which I've just bought for my optical shop in North Wales. It's literally a week old, or I received it a week ago, and it's a new machine. It's just been built up in the factory in Halifax, and I bought it for it to be used as a small tool room lathe, and I've just gone through it. I've made a few alterations to it, and I thought I'd do this video because there are a few reviews of the Myford 7 available on YouTube, but this is perhaps a bit more of an unusual one because it's a brand new machine. So I thought I'd give you my initial impressions, let you know some things that I've done, and some things that I haven't yet done but will be doing. So first of all, my general impressions of the machine is that obviously it's based on an old design. This design is probably 75 years old now, and the manufacturing of these machines was transferred from Nottingham up to Halifax, and the personnel that built them in Nottingham didn't transfer to Halifax, so it's a new factory essentially, but put together with skilled people, which is the important part. And so my initial thoughts were that it probably just needs to go through a bit of a shakedown and a bit of a run-in. So there's a few sharp edges here and there, which I'm in the process of stoning off to take sharp edges off. So for example, these edges here were sharp, just a few holes that are not chamfered and deburred, like this counterbore here, for example. And I tend to like just little break edge chamfers on holes. So slowly but surely, I'll be going through the machine, deburring all of these edges, just to make sure that there's nothing to catch my knuckles on and things like that. It's little touches like that that make a machine nice to use. There's odd little fasteners that weren't really tightened down much. Now, it could be that they vibrated loose on the journey to North Wales in the van. There is that possibility. So I've gone round all these screws and you know, I found a few that weren't really tight, so I've torqued all the screws down now. This gear selector on the gearbox here, it has a little set screw on the side there, just there, onto a plain shaft, and because the gearbox is brand new, it's difficult to select between the ranges A, B and C, and what was happening was, you won't be able to see on here, but there's there's some dogs in the gearbox which engage with each other to change between the high, medium and low ranges, and because the gearbox is new, it's difficult to disengage and to re-engage without having to joggle forwards and backwards on the jog button. And anyway, it's a minor inconvenience at this point. But while I was inspecting it, I found that there was no oil in the gearbox, so I thought this was very odd, because the manual for the machine speaks about making sure that it's filled to the right level with SAE 30 oil. So I had a word with Myford, and they said, well, they put hardened gears in the gearboxes now, so they don't need any oil to lubricate them to prevent wear. But I'll probably fill it with oil anyway, because it'll just make meshing the gears a bit easier and changing gears a bit easier if there's a bit of lube in there. And also because the gears are new, they've still got probably quite sharp edges. It could do with a bit of a strip and stoning all the gears, but I haven't got time to do that, so we'll run it in. Similarly, when it comes to engaging the half nut for the carriage feed or for the cross feed, then it's sometimes a little bit sticky to get that to engage, and it's probably improving a little bit. I've only used the machine for maybe, I don't know, at the most 8 hours, so I'm hoping that will bed in and that will improve once the machine's running. So it's literally early days, so I'm being very critical here really, but I'm just trying to give an honest review on the findings. This knob here, for this lever which activates the tumbler gears for either for the feed to activate the lead screw. I was machining some steel the other day, and with the vibration, the knob fell off a couple of times. So anyway, it shouldn't ever come off. So I've Loctited that on with a bit of 638. You can break 638. It is a bearing fit Loctite. It is a strong Loctite, but you can break it. Should I ever need to remove that, and I can't think of a reason why I would. I mentioned holes not being deburred, but the hole that the screw for the carriage lock passes through, that hole's not deburred, and it's a little bit out of round as well, so it looks as if the holes didn't align on assembly and they've had to file the hole a little bit out of round to get the bolt to clear. Just an observation. Doesn't make any difference to me. I can't see how it affects the functionality of the machine, but it's just one of those little observations. The size of this screw head, it's a funny size. I'm not sure exactly what size it is. It'll probably tell me in the manual. So typical bloke, typical engineer, the manual's always the last thing you look at. But it doesn't seem to be 1/2 inch AF, and it doesn't seem to be 13mm either. So what I'll probably do is just take some material off the flats and make it into 1/2 inch. The rest of all of the fasteners on the machine are all imperial, so I'll make sure that that's an imperial size, so I can use my imperial spanners on it. So in terms of some of the things that I've done to the machine since I've had it in the last few days, I ordered the machine without a tool post. So normally they come with the Dixon type tool post, which is, I mean, it's incredible value for money really. You're looking at about 100 and something quid for a tool post, plus 4 or 5, maybe 6 tool holders, that is incredible value. Do they work amazingly well? Well, probably not straight out of the box, but you know, with a bit of fettling, then I'm sure they do. I chose to put this multi-fix, I think it's a size AA. I'll double check on that. The reason being was I happen to like the multi-fix tool post. I used to operate a hard hinge tool room lathe, and that had a multi-fix tool post on it, and I just liked the versatility of it, and it's just quick and easy to use. So it wasn't cheap, this tool holder. It came with 4 tool holders, so it wasn't cheap, and it was a little bit sticky to begin with, but it's bedding in. There's a few edges that I've had to stone, but you know, it's a Chinese made tool post, you know, that's clear, but it does seem to be quite well made. Excuse me. The diameter of the stud that comes up through the compound slide, it's an imperial size, but in metric it's just a shade over 11 mil. So one of the first things I did was I turned a brass bush to go between the stud, the plain diameter of the stud, and the bore. It's a 20 mil bore in this tool post. So I pressed the brass bush onto the stud, and then this tool post just is a nice tight fit over the top of it. The stud has like a flange on the back of it, and it fits in from underneath here, but there's nothing in there to stop it rotating. So when you tighten this down, it can just turn the stud. So what I did was I took the compound slide off, put it in the vise on a Bridgeport. I just drilled and tapped and fitted a grub screw, just kind of where the diameters intersect each other. I'll see if I can insert a picture into the video to illustrate that. Anyway, that stopped it rotating. I'm not over the moon about it because it's just an M5 grub screw into cast iron parts. There's not going to be enormous cutting forces on here, but it still doesn't sit right with me. So what I will be doing is I will be drilling and pinning this tool post onto the compound slide, and I'm possibly getting ahead of myself a little bit, but one of the future modifications for this is that I'll be making a replacement block for the compound. So I'll make a piece of cast iron, and what I'll do is I'll probably design it so that it's a little bit shorter than the height of the compound. I'll probably drop it down by 5 mil, because one of the things that I had to do to fit some of my bigger turning tools like this one was I had to machine the shank of the turning tool a little bit so that it would fit. To a degree it kind of defeats the object of having a larger tool, but it's still got the width. But even so, most of its stiffness would be needed in its thickness rather than its width. Yeah, when I do make that, the only time I'll be using or needing to use the compound is when I'm turning tapers, which I will do occasionally, but most of my turning will be orthogonal. And I've adjusted this so there's absolutely no play in here. It is fairly stiff on the hand wheel, but it's not too bad. But even so, it's just another degree of freedom that I don't want the machine to have. So for maximum stiffness, I'll be replacing the compound slide and replacing that with a solid block, and that just will afford a bit more damping, a bit more stiffness, and I should see better surface finishes, and I should be able to remove more material when I'm roughing. Okay,